passed by the legislature is required to be presented to the governor. And to make myself abundantly clear, no one, especially an elected public servant in legislative leadership, is above the law. Today, on behalf of the Michigan Senate, I have filed a lawsuit against Republican Speaker Matt Hall for illegally blocking 9 bills passed by both chambers from being presented to the governor. Speaker Hall has deliberately defied legal precedent and long-established legislative practice. And while we were hopeful that House Republicans would do the right thing and present this critical legislation to the governor as required by law, they have again failed to act. Speaker Hall's gamesmanship is not just disrespectful to the sanctity of our Constitution, it is an outright disservice to the residents of Michigan, the very people he was elected to represent. So, believe me, there are many more pressing issues that I'd rather be focused on right now. 2025 has already presented us with a multitude of challenges that demand our attention. We have real work to do for the people of Michigan, and our to-do list is long, especially in this current climate. But I refuse to let our Constitution go ignored, and I refuse to let the hardworking men and women of Michigan continue to be actively harmed by this speaker's inaction. Therefore, we are compelled to take legal action to see to it that the right thing gets done. Thank you.
Thank you, Leader Brinks. Next, we'll hear from Senator Kevin Hertel, who has sponsored companion legislation to Rep. Song's House bill, which is currently being held up. Go ahead.
Well, thank you, Leader Brinks, for your leadership on this issue. You know, the decisions that we make in the legislature matter. They have a real impact on families across all of our communities. They can mean the difference between being able to fill up your gas tank, putting food on the table, paying your electric bill. And I can't think of any other bill in recent history that has this direct of an impact on members across my community, and specifically police officers, firefighters, and teachers. You know, months ago, my colleagues and I began hearing stories across our districts from those very teachers, police officers, and firefighters about a serious challenge they would be facing come 2025 in terms of the cost of their portion of their health insurance. This is all because of a law that was passed under the Snyder administration during very different economic times. And they would be seeing the price of their health insurance spike upwards of $9,000 if the legislature did not take action. And all of us here know that those who take a career in public service certainly do not do it for the money. They're not doing it to get rich. But they take that on to serve our communities, knowing that they can still take care of their families and hopefully have a good life with a good retirement. This is why my colleagues and I immediately got to work to find a solution. In the Senate, I introduced Senate Bill 1129, and in the House, Representative Song introduced House Bill 6058. It was a House version that ultimately passed and should be on the governor's desk for a signature right now. And now I know that maybe this wasn't made clear in Schoolhouse Rock, but it is very clear in our Constitution that when a bill passes both chambers of the legislature, it shall be presented to the governor for a signature. Unfortunately, we now have Speaker Matt Hall and the House Republicans not only disregarding the Michigan Constitution, but they are intentionally choosing to block this legislation and harm thousands of public workers and their families across the state of Michigan. Their deliberate obstruction is forcing teachers, police officers, and firefighters into very difficult economic choices. Do they stay in their profession and decide between affording their medications and their groceries, or do they leave the profession altogether and go somewhere else so they can afford to get by? Last week, we heard from Chris Genuine, a firefighter from Macomb County, about his fire department's inability to increase benefits because of current state law has made it harder for communities to recruit, retain folks that they need to ensure our communities are safe. And when we don't have enough firefighters or police officers on duty, that is a real problem for all of us. It is critical, it is crystal clear that this problem must be solved for the individuals who step up to take these jobs, for their families, and for our communities who depend on them to be on the job. We need to get this done. You know, ultimately, at a time when too many Michiganders are struggling to make ends meet, legislators should be focused on lowering costs, not scoring political points at these individuals' expense. It's far past time for Speaker Hall and House Republicans to knock off the political gamesmanship and put the needs of Michiganders first and send these bills to the governor. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator Hertel. Next, we'll hear from Senator Sue Schenk, who represents many corrections officers in her district. And those folks would have better access to fair retirement benefits if not for these bills being held back. Go ahead, Senator.
Thank you and good afternoon. We're here today because Michigan's corrections officers, those who work long hours in the prisons to ensure the safety of our communities, are being denied the fair pay and the benefits that they need and deserve. They've told us what they need: better pensions to help recruit and retain officers in a profession that is already facing extreme staffing shortages. These officers work grueling hours in incredibly difficult conditions, and yet they receive fewer benefits than other law enforcement professionals. We listened, we worked together, we passed bipartisan legislation to fix this. The bills are ready to go to the governor's desk, ready to bring real relief. But instead of moving this forward, House Republicans are playing political games. As a lawyer and elected official, I understand the importance of following our Constitution, not just when it's convenient, but always. The Michigan Constitution is clear. The legislative process exists to serve the people, not partisan interests. House Republicans and Speaker Matt Hall are not just delaying critical support for our corrections officers, they are neglecting their constitutional duty to govern. This isn't just wrong, it's illegal. My district is home to hundreds of corrections officers, and my office has been flooded with calls and emails from those correction officers urging action on these bills. They are counting on us to deliver, and Senate Democrats have done our part. Last session, we worked across the aisle to meet the crisis head on. Now, Speaker Matt Hall and House Republicans are holding it up, delaying the help that these officers desperately need. Let me be clear. Each day Speaker Hall refuses to act is another day our corrections officers face unsafe staffing levels, exhaustion, and increased risk inside our prisons. This isn't just about them. It's about the safety of our entire correction system and our communities. We cannot and will not stand by while House Republicans play partisan games with public safety. And that's exactly what this is. The people of Michigan elected us to lead, not to obstruct. We have a constitutional duty to act in their best interests, and we will not stop fighting to get this bill to Governor Whitmer's desk. Michigan deserves action. Our correction officers deserve better, and we are committed to delivering the solutions that they need, no matter what. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator Schenk. Next, we're going to hear from Senator John Cherry. Senator Cherry chairs the Senate's Labor Committee, and last week he held a special committee hearing to hear directly from folks who are hurt by the House's inaction.
Thank you. As Rosie said, last week we held our first Senate Labor Committee meeting of the year. We had a packed committee room filled with people from around the state, various professions and perspectives, all there to share about the ways that these bills would impact their lives. We heard from a firefighter from Macomb County, motor carrier officer from Mount Pleasant, teachers from Richmond, Lansing, and Troy, a bus driver from Saginaw, and a corrections officer from Jackson. But there was a common theme. They're all struggling and they are asking for help. And they all see a solution in the bills we already passed and that Speaker Hall is holding up. As I've mentioned before, this legislation shouldn't be controversial. It's about taking care of those who take care of us. It's about having the backs of the brave first responders and public safety professionals who risk their lives on a daily basis to keep us and our communities safe, ensuring they receive the benefits that they deserve and that they can retire with dignity and financial security. It's about supporting teachers who give their utmost to our kids day in and day out, ensuring they can access quality health care without having to hesitate to make a doctor's appointment, fearing about how much it could cost. It's an absolute shame that Speaker Hall and the House Republicans are turning their backs on these folks, our firefighters, police officers, teachers, bus drivers, and so many more, by blocking these bills in violation of the Constitution from being presented to the governor. Rather than deliver actual solutions for our public workers, they've decided to play political games with people's livelihoods, further eroding the trust of the Michigan people in the process. Now, we heard lots of powerful testimony on the need for this legislation from numerous folks last week, as I was mentioning, and I'm very grateful for those who took the time to share that with us. There's one message in particular I wanted to lift up again for all of you in case you weren't actually there to hear it. It came from Katie Kerstetter, the wife of fallen MSP motor carrier officer Daniel Kerstetter, who courageously shared her husband's experience working in a profession that provides insufficient benefit to meet the needs of their members, even though they risk it all on a daily basis. And in her testimony, she shared a message with our committee that she wanted shared with Speaker Hall. This is what she said, and I quote, "Take the win and set politics aside. Some things are just not about politics. They're about right and they're about wrong. Please take care of the people who take care of you and do what's right." It's very simple. So today, along with my fellow colleagues here, I implore Speaker Hall and House Republicans to listen to Katie and the many others who are counting on this legislation and set politics aside to do what is right.
Thank you, Senator Cherry. Next, we are very glad to have a teacher with us to share her personal experience. Kim Sandifer is a math teacher in Comstock and is here to share her real-life experience navigating the spikes in healthcare costs for educators. Sandifer, the floor is yours.
Thank you. Good afternoon. My name is Kim Sandifer from Comstock, Michigan. For those of you who may be unfamiliar with our small town, it's located in House Speaker Matt Hall's District 42. I have been an elementary educator for 18 years and am a second career teacher. When I started my career, there was not a teacher shortage. In fact, it was such a competitive market that my only job options were to either move out of state or take a job in a charter school until there was an opening in a public school. I started out with subpar pay and terrible benefits, changing insurance carriers every single year as my employer sought to keep costs low, regardless of how it would affect the quality of coverage. After 6 years, I was finally able to get hired in a public school. While the wages weren't all that much more impressive to start, the security of having quality benefits made the transition worth it. No more having to worry about which insurance company I would be using come January. No more having to wonder if I would need to switch doctors because this new plan no longer participates with that provider. And peace of mind knowing that whatever medical diagnosis may come my way, I would be covered, and more importantly, not go bankrupt from medical bills. And then came the effects of PA 152. And over a decade later, here we are today. In the midst of a teacher shortage, stagnant wage increases, and skyrocketing healthcare costs, we are here to continue discussions on the negative impacts this legislation is having on Michigan educators, students, and families. While HB 6058 may not be a perfect fix, it is a step in the right direction. And the legislature agreed, passing it in 2024 for Governor Whitmer to take action on, whether signing or vetoing the bill, as is her right per our Constitution. Speaker Matt Hall's inaction to send this and other bills to the governor's desk is inexcusable. Playing party politics with people's health care and income, deplorable. We are struggling to recruit and retain highly qualified teachers as it is. They should not have to choose between health care and the job they so love doing. No one has ever gone into education to get rich, but the rewards through student outcomes and decent benefits have always helped to offset the pay. I am a math teacher by day, so here are the numbers of my reality. 14%. This is the rate increase my district saw in annual health insurance premiums this year. 0.2%. This is the current PA 152 hard cap increase, an annual increase of $42. $32,854. The annual premium for my full family on our new health insurance plan that includes a $4,000 deductible and pharmaceutical benefits that do not begin until after the deductible is met. After the hard cap, this leaves me with an out-of-pocket expense of $11,805. $1,355. My net income per paycheck as of January 1st this year, after all mandatory and elective deductions are taken out, and I'm at the top of the pay scale. 40. The age that I was diagnosed with a chronic heart condition that would go on to require 4 different life-saving medications I'm on today. On December 29th of last year, my 8-year-old daughter became ill and developed a high fever and cough. We spent the next few days monitoring and treating it with ibuprofen and Tylenol. On January 1st, her temperature spiked over 105 degrees. It was no longer responding to medication and still climbing. We made the difficult decision to seek treatment in the ER. We would have gladly chosen the doctor's office or urgent care facility, but they were closed for the holiday. For the first time since becoming a public school teacher, one of my first thoughts was, how much will this visit cost me? As a parent, I was sickened by the fact that insurance costs were now factoring into whether or not I could afford to seek medical treatment for my child. No one should have to choose whether to seek medical care based on their ability to pay. After 2.5 hours of care, 1 x-ray, 4 lab tests, 3 medications, she was diagnosed with pneumonia and croup, and we were able to go home. I was grateful it was diagnosed early enough that she did not have to be admitted overnight. Now, we wait for the impending medical bill. January 20th, it's now time for a quarterly refill of just 2 of my heart medications. So I submitted my refill request to the pharmacy and waited. Again, for the first time since being diagnosed with a chronic heart condition, I am anxiously anticipating what the charges will be when I arrive to pick up my medications. I knew when I switched to a high deductible plan, the early months would be difficult to budget for, but the full gravity of the situation hit me in a very short period of time, especially when coupled with an unexpected ER visit. $1,545. This is the ER bill that arrives on January 22nd. $1,729. This is the cost waiting for me at the pharmacy on January 24th. $3,274. This is the amount I've already incurred toward my annual deductible, and mind you, this is all in the first few weeks of the year. Now, for those of you who've been keeping score, you can see that my medical costs incurred this month alone exceeds my entire monthly income. While a hospital is willing to take a payment plan, the pharmacy does not, and going off my heart medication is not an option. I am just one example of the thousands of educators being impacted by the crushing weight of medical costs. While I am fortunate enough to have savings to cover these costs, many educators do not, especially our newer teachers with a lower annual income. As veteran teachers are forced to leave the field for financial and medical reasons, our students are the ones who pay the ultimate price. When veteran teachers leave, they are often replaced with less experienced educators, long-term subs, grow your own staff, etc. Their limited experience can't hold a candle to a veteran teacher that has the on-the-job experience to know how to effectively build relationships, manage a classroom, and adapt curriculum to the variety of learners' needs. Without any sign of relief in sight, I don't know how much longer I can continue this career path. It is not financially responsible to work long-term in a situation where I'm spending more than I earn, and this hasn't even taken into account fuel costs, groceries, childcare, etc. Speaker Hall, I implore you to take action to get HB 6058 and the other bills to the governor's desk without delay. Our students and families can't afford to wait any longer. Thank you.
Thank you, Kim, for sharing your story, and thank you for the work that you do every day in our schools and working with the children of our state. Want to express my appreciation for you. The unfortunate reality is that there are thousands of teachers in our state doing that same kind of math and other public employees. And so I just really appreciate you sharing your story. You deserve to know that your legislators are in your corner, and today that is why we are here, and we are certainly hopeful that this action will compel the Speaker of the House to make it right. So thank you.
Thank you, Leader Brinks. At this time, we'll open up for questions from the press. If you have a question, please raise your hand. I already see a few up. And when I call on you, please state your outlet and whom your question is for. Arpin, why don't you go ahead first?
Thanks, Rosie. And this is Arpin Lobo from the Detroit Free Press. Senator Brinks, I wanted to ask if this lawsuit is planning to be filed in the Court of Claims today, and I wanted to ask a little bit about the legal argument. Given that the state law on bills says shall, I'm wondering if the argument is that that should be must in terms of bills being presented once they're passed. Thank you.
Yeah, it is my understanding that those words mean the same thing in legal speak, but yeah, I will let you submit any further more legal questions through our staff for a confirmation, but that is my understanding.
Okay, and is the lawsuit planned to be filed today and will it be filed in the Court of Claims?
Yes, it will.
Thank you.
Ms. Arpin, and I'll add that the legal documents will be attached to the press release that will be issued after the press conference. Next, let's go to Samantha Schreiber.
Yeah, hello everyone. This is Sam Schreiber of MERS News. Thanks for hosting this today. Leader Brinks, I'm a little bit curious. What has former House Clerk Rich Brown told you? Because I look at the calendar, there was over 2 weeks that these bills could have been transmitted to the governor before Hall's speakership started. Why weren't they in that 2-week period?
You know, regardless of who was speaker or who was clerk at the time, the Constitution is very clear that these bills shall be presented. So it is, my concern is that we follow the Constitution and that we get those to the governor's desk. And they seem to have stopped over in the House. So regardless of who was there before, the person with the power to do that now, or the people, are the current clerk and the current speaker. So our goal here is simply about ensuring that the Constitution is followed and that those bills are presented to the governor for her evaluation.
But I think my curiosity is, and either of you can answer this on this call, how did we get here? What is the origin story? Why was there a delay to begin with?
You know, I can't speak to that. I, of course, work in the Senate as across the chamber, across the dome, the other chamber, and we are separate organizations, but the Constitution is very clear that those bills shall go to the governor's desk. So that's what I remain focused on.
Thank you. Next, let's go to, I believe it's the Detroit News.
This is it's Craig Mauger, a reporter with the Detroit News newspaper. An unrelated question I wanted to ask the Senate Majority Leader. In less than 3 weeks, a series of regulations on the minimum wage and sick leave are going to take effect, impacting organizations and businesses across the state. Do you plan to take up bills before February 21st in your chamber to change any of these policies? A lot of businesses don't know what to expect, and they're looking to you for some guidance on what to expect. Thank you.
Yeah, we certainly have had a lot of conversations around these bills. You've seen the House move some bills. We have bills introduced. We will continue to have those conversations. We are hearing, of course, from stakeholders on all sides of the issue. Those conversations continue. There's more on that to come.
Let's now go to Simon Schuster.
Hey, Leader Brinks, this is Simon with Bridge here. I was curious, given that we're still kind of in the early days of this legislative session, you're contending with split government. Obviously, you haven't been able to reach an agreement with Speaker Hall. What does this portend for your relationship with the other chamber, given that you, in the coming months, are going to have to get a budget passed and work on an untold number of other priorities?
I've had regular conversations with Speaker Hall. We have maintained an open line of communication about this and many other issues. Of course, there will be things that we disagree on, but I would point out that this is not a matter for negotiation. This is a matter of following the Constitution. So today, that is what this action is focused on, and I'm hopeful that he will understand his duty as a legislator and as a legislative leader and follow the Constitution.
Has the speaker attempted to negotiate a resolution to this issue with you?
I would not want to talk about our discussions. Those are, of course, confidential. However, we remain in conversation about this and many other issues, and I am hopeful that we can have a productive resolution of this.
Thanks.
Okay, I'm not seeing any other hands at this point, so I want to thank everyone. Oh, we've got one more from Sam. We'll take Sam as our last question.
Sorry, everyone. I couldn't resist a final question. Which lawyer are you working with? Who's your lawyer on this lawsuit?
We have retained Mark Brewer with Goodman Acker, and of course, he's working closely with our legal staff as well here in the Senate.
Oh, thank you.
Thanks, Sam. And with that, we'll conclude this program. If you have any additional questions, please feel free to reach out to me directly and we will get you those answers. And I want to thank everyone for attending today. Thank you very much.
Thank you.